I'm wondering if that would have feedback.
We do like a quick, because I know Rebecca and Amir weren't able to introduce themselves last week. So can we quickly introduce them first at the start of the lecture?
Oh yeah, sure.
Should we just kind of like cancel this if this is too disturbing?
Yeah, just cancel
Yeah.
it. Also, you can hide these. When you want to get it back, escape.
Oh,
But I can do that.
okay.
Do I have to stand up here or do I just?
Let's just stand up here for this. Okay, sure. Yep. The mic is not working.
I don't know. Can you put a little closer?
Oh yeah, it's working. If you speak a little louder.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you guys like hear me in the back? Great. So,
Really quickly, we just want to introduce like Rebecca and Amir because they weren't able to introduce themselves last week. So yeah, do you want to introduce yourself?
oh yeah. So hi, I will be teaching today's lecture on HTML. My name is Rebecca Won, and I'm a sophomore majoring in CS. Nice to meet you all.
Hi everyone, my name is Amir. I'm a sophomore studying computer science and data science. I took this decon last semester, and this semester I joined as a full stack TA. So if you guys have any questions about like course content and material, I took it last semester, so I know like how it was, and I'm also like familiar with it this year. My office hours are Monday from 4 to 5, and I'm teaching CSS2, JavaScript 1, JavaScript 2. So just look out for those lectures. And if you guys want to find me anytime, just like ask me any questions. I'm happy to answer anything.
Yeah, we're gonna go sit in the front. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask us.
Okay, so we'll start the lecture on HTML. So I will be teaching the first part, and my partner Nikia will teach the second part. So before we begin, like HTML stands for Hyper Markup Language. And HTML is basically building the most basic building block of the website. And later in the course, you will learn about CSS and JavaScript. So CSS is to style the HTML elements, and JavaScript is basically to add functionalities to your website. And so before we really dive into HTML lecture, if you go to any website, like any website in general, what do you see in the website? Like, can anyone share their ideas? Like, for example, it can be like image. Yeah. Yeah, headings. Definitely. Anyone else? Yeah, definitely, like buttons to call the action. We will definitely learn about that also. And yeah, pictures, right? So all of these elements that we see on the website, we can make by using HTML language, and we'll learn about that today. So I will give you guys a demo how to make an HTML file from the start. So do you guys all have text editor? So yeah, please open up the text editor. I'm using the VS Visual, like VS Code, but you guys can also use Atom or any other text editors. So if you're using VS Code, you can just click new file here, like this. And just press Command S to save your HTML file to whatever directory you want to save that HTML file. So I will just name my file basics, and then make sure your file name ends with .html. And if you press enter, that becomes like the blank HTML file. So right now, this is just a blank, and we will we need a skeleton code to start with. And the way to get a skeleton code, if you're using VS Code, just write HTML and then press colon and press 5. And if you hit enter, the VS Code will automatically complete the skeleton code you need to start the HTML file. And if you're using Atom, just in case, you can just type HTML and then press enter to get this same skeleton code. Does anyone have questions so far? Okay, so I'll move on. So let's take a look at this. Yeah, HTML colon 5. Oh, really? Are you using VS Code? Oh, I'm not sure why it's not working. Does anyone have like the same issue right now, or? Okay, I'll try to continue. Let me know if that works. Yeah. Okay, so if you take a closer look at the skeleton code, there's like dog type HTML at the very front, at the very top. And this basically tells the browser that this file is an HTML file. So it's just telling you that this file is written in HTML. And after that, you see this HTML tags, which is like, you can basically see 2 HTML tags. And in HTML, you have opening tag and closing tag. Let me just change the indentation to make it easier to read. Okay, so this is just kind of like the most outward tags you will use in the HTML file. And inside that, there are 2 major parts, which is the head here, and the body. In the head, you see these like meta tags here. We won't be discussing about meta tags too much today, but like this is basically telling you like we are using this character set, this type of character set. And yeah, that's all you have to know for now. And this title tag here is basically how to set the title of your web page. So any text that goes inside here becomes the title of your website. So for example, if I just type in, this is the title between opening and closing tags of the title, save this. And if I were to open this website on a browser, all you have to do is right click the tab here on the VS Code and click copy path and go to the Google and copy and paste the URL that you just copied from VS Code. And if you click it, this is the website that we are building with HTML. Right now, it's just a blank because we haven't really done anything right now. But if you look closely here, the tab, I'm not sure if you can see this, but this says this is the title. This is the text that we have inputted inside these title tags. And yeah, this is all for head. And for the body, this part is where we actually input the actual contents of the website. And we'll learn about more tags to put inside these body tags to build the actual website. Does anyone have questions so far? Okay, I will move on. So now we'll learn about the basic tags that we will use inside the body tags that I just told you about. So the first tag that I will talk about is the header tag. Just like a student in the front row said, like there's headings in some websites, and all you have to do is just write go to the text editor, and inside the body text, you type H. And if you see these, like you can see there is H1, H2, H3, all the way up to H6, right? These are all the header tags. Let's use H1 for now. And if you just do H1, if you just type in H1 and press enter, the VS Code will autocomplete the opening and closing tags so that you don't have to write brackets by yourself. And between these opening and closing tags, we can just write whatever text we want to be a heading. So for example, this is a header one. Make sure to save your VS Code and then go to the website we are building. And if you refresh the page, we see that the header appears on our website. And if you think like this header is too big, I want some like smaller header, you can use H2 tag or like H3 tags. All of them will be bolded tags, but they differ only in size. So if you use H1, that is like the biggest header. And if you use H6, that is like the smallest header in HTML. So just to show you, if I use H2 and this say like this is a header 2, and if I use H6 and say this is the smallest one. If I save this and go back to the website and then refresh this, you can see that all of them are bolded and they're like the same type of header, but they only differ in size. Does anyone have questions so far? Okay, great. Now that was a header tag. And the next thing I will going to talk about is the paragraph. Sometimes, and actually most of the times, you don't want bolded text, right? You just want like a normal unbolded text. And that's where we use paragraph. And for the paragraph, we just only have to write P in the text editor. So if you go back to our text editor, and I will erase all of these headings. If you just type P and press enter, it will again autocomplete the opening and closing tags. And we can put whatever text within this tag, like this is a normal text. And make sure you don't put quotes around these tags. You just write whatever you want to. Save this and refresh the page. Now we only see this paragraph tag, which is not bolded, and it's just like a normal text we see on the website. And right now we are just using like the default size and default font that HTML is giving us. But in the next lecture, when you're learning CSS, you will learn how to like change the font size and like font type, everything you need to restyle this default style. Okay, so that was a paragraph tag. And the third one that I want to talk about are lists. So in the website, you often want to organize things, and that's where we use lists. And there are two types of lists. The one is the ordered list, and the another one is unordered list. So I'll show you how to make ordered list first. I will add heading and say this is about list. And to add an ordered list on the website, you have to use the tag OL, which is basically stands for ordered list, OL. If you press enter, it will again autocomplete the opening and closing tags. And inside this ordered list, you want to add list items. We don't want empty list, right? In order to add the items into the list, you use li tag and write the item context into this li tags. So for example, item 1. And you can basically add another items by, like using another pair of li tags. So item 2, I will just add up to item 3. If you save this and refresh this page, now you see that the order list has appeared on our website. And you can notice that there are numbers in front of our list items because we have used OL tags, which is ordered list. But I said there is like the second type of list, which is unordered list. Sometimes we don't want to number things, right? We just want a bullet points. And all we have to do to change this into bullet points is use UL instead of OL tag. So instead of this OL here that I'm dragging right now, you can just change this into UL. And then if you save this and refresh the page, you can see that the numbers have become bullet points. Okay, and the next tag that I want to talk about is divs. So the div tag is like a shortened version of division. So it's basically grouping HTML elements together. But I will say like this, for today, this tag wouldn't seem to have apparent effect on our website, but this will become more useful once you learn CSS in the next class. But just to show you some idea how this works. So for example, let's say we have headings. We have a header here and another header below. And I will add some like paragraph here. I want to be included in a group. Okay, so let's say we have these three HTML elements. Two of them is header 1, and the last one is the paragraph. When you're using CSS, what you have, you can basically style the HTML elements in two ways. The first way is you just go to the CSS file and you learn how to do this in the next class, but you just tell the CSS file that you want to make, for example, H1, all the H1 tags to be color red. And you just type H1 into the CSS file and say like color equals red. And that will make these two header become red. However, most of the times we just don't want to style the element by its element type. So that's why we need some like a group that we can define by ourselves so that we can target the group of elements that we want to style. We want like, so that like we can apply the specific style to that group of elements. So let me show how it works. Just to refresh this page. So I'm gonna use div here. So let's type in div, press enter. And now there is the div tag here. And I want to group H1 and P right here. All I have to do is just copy and paste it inside this div tag. And if you save this and refresh the page, you will notice that nothing has changed, right? I told you that like the div tags won't have apparent effect on the website, but this is useful because we have grouped, although it's not seen on our website, we have grouped H1 and P tags together. And this is not like the common way to style the HTML elements, but just to give you some idea, you don't have to like follow this up. I can basically apply a specific style to this division. So for example, I want to make this color, let's say blue violet. I want another header and I want to be included in a group to become blue violet in this color. If you save this and refresh the page, you see that header hasn't changed, but the division that we defined, like the color was applied to this division only. So that is why we need division in our HTML, so that we can group things together and apply the specific style to that division only. Does anyone have questions or like concerns about this? Okay, then I'll move on to the next part. The next tag I will teach you about is the image. There are a lot of times where you want to insert image on your website and you use img tag for that. So, oops. The way you do it is basically same as any other tags. So let's change our headings into image, and you just type img into the text editor and then press enter. And it will auto-complete the img tag for you, image tag for you. The one thing you have to notice here, let me just zoom in. One thing you will notice is that this is only the opening tag. There is no closing tags for the image. So what that means is that you wouldn't need the closing tag for the image tag, but this itself will become like the image tag for the HTML file. And the second thing you will notice is that it does not say img, but there is something called *c and alt right next to it, right? *c stands for source. And in the source, you will provide the URL to the image that you want to insert in the website, or you can put in the relative path to your image that is saved on your computer. So for example, wait. Okay. Wait a second. Never mind. So for example, let me just give you some example for that. So if you look at my directories, my folder directory, I'm having this HTML demo file inside this directory called HTML_demo. And if you click this, you see this basics.html that we have been writing so far. And then in the same directory, for now, just keep your image. If you are to follow this demo, just save your image to the same directory that you have this HTML file. So for example, I have this like BBQ random image in the same directory. And if you go back, if you go back to our text editor, what you have to do if you have the same image file under the same directory, you just write down the image file name into this source. So for example, I have saved my BBQ image as BBQ. So I will just write BBQ and it will automatically appear at the bottom, .png. We can just leave alt blank for now. So if you save this and refresh the page, now you see this like, oops, now you see this like huge BBQ picture on your website. I know this is huge and this does not fit into your website, and it's okay for now because we'll learn how to resize the image. You can stretch it and change the size to whatever you want, or if you're using CSS. Okay, so we can definitely insert the image just using this *c file. *c attribute, right? So why do we need this alt? This alt stands for alternate, and this is basically used to provide users the information about the image when the image is broken. So for example, let's say I have a typo in my *c. For example, I just kind of like inputted the wrong image file name. I don't have this missing.png in the directory that I have this basics.html, like you just saw. Like if you look at my directory here, I just have BBQ, image, and HTML file. I don't have any other image files, right? So that means if I input this missing.png into the src, that means we have a broken link. If you save this and refresh the page, nothing appears on our website. This will be a problem because if you are the users and don't know that like the creator of this website was intended to insert the image here, like we have no idea, right? It does not show us anything. So what we want to do is provide the alternate text to explain what this image was, like what this image was supposed to be if it didn't have a broken link. So let's say like, we have a broken link. If you save this and refresh the page, now we see this like typical like broken image icon, and next to it, it will display the alternate text, which explains like, oh, we have a broken link, but there was supposed to be an image at this spot. The last thing I want to talk about this image tag is, so this is the one way to provide source to your image tag. The another way to provide the image source is to just go to the Google and just type, like find any image you want to insert. So for example, I will just use my Google search history. I will, like I want to insert some like CS61C related image into my website. And if you go to like image, you'll see like bunch of related images. I don't know which image to use. I will use this one. So you just click the image that you want to insert. If you right click this, you will see copy image address right here. If you click this and paste it into the src, save this and refresh the page, now you can see CS61C image on my website. So this is like the second way you can provide source to your website. I would say like either way works. So it's up to your preference which one you use. Does anyone have questions about image tag or any other contents that I've taught so far? Okay, if not, I will pass on to my partner.
Can everyone hear me in the back? Okay, 1 second. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to talk about are links, and links are made using the A tag. So let me show you how that works right now. So I can just type in A, click enter, and it has this attribute href. And href is basically going to be the URL that the link is going to point to. So for example, not that one. Let me point to fullstackdecal.com. So I can just copy the address, paste it in, save, say, I don't know, this is a link. Refresh the page, and my link shows up right here. Links are inline styled, so it will just show up like that. But when I click it, it'll redirect my page. So it's kind of annoying that it just redirects on the same tab. So if I wanted it to open a new tab, then I can add another attribute target and set it equal to _blank. Save, refresh, and it opens it in a new tab like that. That's how links work. Any questions? Okay. So the next one is buttons. Buttons are basically how a user will interact with the page. Their main purpose is to click on them. So I can click button, enter, and I can say, click me. And when I save and refresh the page, the button will show up. So right now, buttons don't really do anything. And that's because HTML as a language doesn't actually do anything. So in order to make a button work, we would have to pass in some JavaScript code into that. So buttons have this attribute called onClick. And I can here pass in any JavaScript function call. So right now we're not talking about JavaScript, but later on in the JavaScript lessons, you'll learn how to make buttons work. But yeah, those are buttons. Any questions about them? Yeah. In the A tag? So target is basically a way for me to specify like what tab I want to open to. So when I put underscore blank, I'm saying that I want this link to open up in a new tab. If I don't include that in there, then the link will just open up in the same tag, like that. Any other questions? Another thing about buttons is that you don't have to just put text in there. You can put like anything, any tag at all. So I can put like a header, for example. I can also say, click me. And we're gonna refresh the page. It's basically a button with header styling inside. Still does nothing. Any questions about that? Okay. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the input tag. Inputs are basically a way for a user to interact with the website. And there are a whole bunch of input types. So the way it works is input enter. This one is type equals text. So if I save and refresh, you can see this input shows up here and I can type whatever I want. There are a lot of other ones too. So input type equals radio. So that's like a radio button. You can make multiple if I need like a select, for example. There's also type equals color. I've actually had to use this one before. It's pretty cool. It's basically just a color picker. I enjoy this one. But you can look it up on like the Mozilla docs, I think. So like input HTML. So, and you can see a whole bunch. They list out a bunch. I would recommend checking out the Mozilla docs in case you want to look up some stuff about HTML. Okay, moving on from inputs are forms. And forms are basically like a wrapper tag, essentially. Oh, I do that. So forms are a wrapper tag around a bunch of like other HTML tags. And the purpose of it is to just gather information from a user. So it can be, I can put all my inputs inside of this form, or I can put like a select text area, really anything. Think about like any application you've done, it's a form. It doesn't actually change the way anything looks. Everything looks the same, but the form will help support the functionality for collecting this input. And another important input to know about when dealing with forms is input type equals submit. And that's basically the button that's used. Oh, sorry, did I save? Why is it not showing up? Input type equals submit is supposed to be the submit button. I'm not sure why that's not working. For now, let me just make it a button. Yeah. It'll work with buttons too, actually. And see, that's like a submit button that'll show up in my form. Should work for some inputs too, but that's basically the way to gather that information from the form. Again, you'll learn how to actually do that in JavaScript. More on that later. Any questions about forms? Are they similar to divisions? Not necessarily, because divisions don't add any functionality to the page. They just kind of separate and categorize the elements on the page. But the forms, for example, have another attribute. I'm pretty sure it's called on submit. And there you would pass in a JavaScript function to actually deal with submitting the inputs in the form, if that makes sense. Divs don't have anything like that. So that's why we would use a form in this case. Huh? The on-click. So the on-click is basically a JavaScript function that you would pass in. So when you click the button, it would execute. I can give a really small example. So I'm gonna say alert. What's it called again? So alert is just a basic JavaScript function. Let's say hello world. Let me save that. So when I click on this button, it'll pop up an alert at the top. And you can pass in a whole bunch of things. It doesn't have to be alerts. You can pass in really complicated JavaScript functions, but you'll learn more about that in JavaScript. The HTML itself isn't actually doing anything. It's the JavaScript. The HTML is just displaying it. Any other questions? Okay. So that's all the tags we are going over for today. I can quickly point out again the Mozilla docs for this. So if you go here, developer.mozilla.com, I can go to HTML elements. I don't remember where that is. Yeah, HTML elements reference. They list out a whole bunch of them, and we have some in the readings too on our website. So check that out if you want to learn more. So these are just the most commonly used ones, but there's a whole bunch of HTML tags that have a whole bunch of different purposes. Yeah, it would be a lot to cover every single one. And now I'm just going to go through some quick announcements to end class. So homework 0 is due tonight. It's just the setup. Make sure to submit your link on Gradescope by 11:59 p.m. And then homework 1, the HTML homework, is also going to be released today and will be due next Tuesday, so February 15th. And the assignment is to basically create a tribute page to your favorite character, celebrity, whoever, using HTML elements. And the spec is on the website. And before you start, make sure to read the HTML lesson notes, which is lesson 2 on our website also. We have office hours this week. We already had a couple yesterday and today, and there'll be more tomorrow. The schedule is on Piazza as well as the locations, so check that. And oh my God, I just forgot the last announcement. The deadline to enroll is tomorrow. Make sure to do that because the ad drop deadline is tomorrow. Yeah, that's the last announcement. Any final questions? Where does that go? Yeah. So HTML actually doesn't control where it goes. It just like displays it. So I can type in whatever I want. And if I click submit, nothing will happen. It doesn't go anywhere. So that's like JavaScript's job to make it go somewhere. Any other questions about HTML or any class stuff? Okay. So now, wait, hold on. Let me stop recording for a second.